Oh,
Yeah, we're good.
side quest, minute letters, and we're gonna get into some shit for some more content for that ass. What up,
Yup,
Kobe?
baby, ready. What up, what up, what up, what up? Hey, smoking if you got them.
Smoke 'em as you got 'em. It's not legal here, so I ain't gonna smoke it. But I might got it. I might have some party favors.
And there goes my job.
They can test me. That shit come back hella clean. They be like,
Yeah,
damn,
right.
can you at least drink some beer, please? But yeah, but hey, after last show, bro, look, like we can wait till Friday. We can wait till Friday.
Ooh,
Crack
I'm gonna have to
open.
put that in. I'm gonna have to kind of mix that in. That's gonna be funny in this cut. That boy said, "The Bible is a sci-fi novel." I was like, "What?"
You might have to use that.
There are people. These people are witnessing these things, right? And not only did these people witness these things, these books that came out after this came out eons after they died. It's not like it was written in scripture as it was happening. This happened eons after that, and the people that it was happening to couldn't read or write. We're talking about the people in the whole Bible. Let's talk about it. The Bible. This is a sci-fi fantasy. You know what I'm saying? It is one of the most epic ones ever to be written. It's awesome. It's amazing. I love it.
Star Wars 2.0.
Yeah, Star Wars 2.0. And there's good stuff in there too.
I just laughed and said, like, Star Wars, huh? And you said,
Yeah.
I was like, God damn. It boy lit.
Yeah. Sunday Funday was a little too much.
Bro had a tinfoil hat and said, this is a sci-fi novel. I was like, man, welcome to the Minute Letters podcast. Here we are. But no, it was fun. Definitely check out the live Sunday nights. We have a good time.
We definitely do, man. So we got a few things going. The first one I want to kick off with is the Night Siege of 1981.
What is that?
So that is basically about this family. I can't think of their names right now, but I got a video here, YouTube video. But they bought this farmhouse or farm or something on the land that's kind of deep in the woods or whatever. In 1981, and they all moved in, and they started seeing just crazy things in the woods, stepping out of the wood lines and things like that. And a lot of the stuff that they were seeing was red eyes looking out at them from the woods. Some looked like that they were 12 feet tall. Some looked like they were just crossed on the ground.
12 feet tall.
Yeah.
They got to recruit them in the center, don't they? Shit.
Right.
God damn.
Like, hey, you can play in the league. Don't be harassing me. Look, we get you an agent.
You doing all this in the woods. You can have a house, a car.
Right. All the things. It would kill their livestock. So it was just causing issues with them. So yeah, go ahead.
Where was this at again? It wasn't in like Skinwalker Farm Ranch. It sounds like a lot like that.
Now it's in Ohio, but it does sound a lot like that. Which it has you thinking like, well, these events are so similar. If they're real, well, what's going on? Because basically the events that happened at Skinwalker Ranch happened here in Ohio.
Okay.
So it begs the question, like, is there any, I don't know, any connection to them? Who knows?
Yeah.
But after a while, like, the family started to kind of get pissed off at these things for constantly harassing them. So they went with their hunting rifles and all that, and they basically went to war with these things at one point. And so that's why they call it the Night Siege of 1981.
They went to war.
They went to war.
See, that's for me. We're the letters. We are hunters. I'm not going down without a fight. Like
No.
goblins, ghouls, demons. I'm gonna try to figure it out. We gotta
Yeah.
figure it out. So I like they fought back. They lived. They lived the night siege. Oh shit!
Yeah. Everybody lived the night siege. It was, and they had people come out try to help them. Try to discover the mysteries of what was going on and things like that. So, we got this channel that I follow on YouTube, and I'll just bring it up now.
What is the name of the channel?
What Lurks Beneath.
Shout out What Lurks Beneath for youth.
Yes.
For youth.
We'll kind of skip through this because I couldn't find any TikTok short.
That beard is gnarly. That beard is going ham.
If only I could grow a proper beard.
Right. Man, in the mountains, boy.
Right.
Let's get it.
This terrifying story has gone mostly overlooked by people in the paranormal community, which is why I'm bringing it to you today. One thing to remember, though, the story of Robert's family unfolds over the entire summer of 1981, so I'm going to have to move fast and compress some things if we want to cover it all, but I promise it's worth it. Things began in early 1981. A deer was discovered on Robert's property, its sides slashed open as if by the claws of some gigantic unseen predator. It was the beginning of a mystery that, if still unsolved, would at least reveal
a bear. I think is what they thought it was.
They thought a bear flashed it
in Ohio.
Like, goddamn!
What kind of bear is that? Right.
My bad, bro.
I'll just keep playing it. We talk over.
The year continued on. The next thing worth noting occurred in May of 1981. With Robert's permission, a group of Amish men arrived on his property to cut some wood, and they brought with them around 600 pounds of feed to sustain the horses that would help haul out the timber. But when they returned to the site the next day, the bags were shredded and emptied, just like the unfortunate deer that had been discovered. The Amish didn't know what to make of it, but continued operations, hauling more feed out to Robert's property.
Fuck it.
On that day, Robert heard gunfire from the woods, and when the Amish came out for the evening, he saw that one of their horses had a gaping wound on its side as well, but its owners wouldn't let on that anything unusual had happened. They simply said that they had been shooting at snakes, that's all. Still,
yeah, they do.
The visitors to Robert's property kept working, that is, until one day when they suddenly stopped. Not only that, but they had abandoned all their equipment and didn't come back for it until over a month later. Please, like they didn't know something was going on. It was weird, to say the least. Now, most notably, it's happened until this point, and he knows that it all points to a big predator lurking somewhere on the property. And there, scuttling just beyond the beam of his flashlight, seems to be a shape. He can't make out any details other than the fact that it's massive. It's moving around on four legs and, most notably, has a pair of big, red, glowing eyes that are fixed on the flock of ducks. Well, immediately, he passes his flashlight to his son and takes aim. He scores a direct hit on the shape in the darkness using the eyes as a guide. Robert knows it was a direct hit because a blood-curdling shriek issued from this thing. That, and it took off running across the field at an incredible speed, too fast to get off a second shot. And even in the darkness, they could tell that it was enormous. But it hadn't run away on all fours. It stood up to run across the field on 2 feet.
What did that
clearly
sound like?
Stood taller than any man, around 7 or 8 feet tall.
Yep.
Now, Robert and his boys stayed up most of the night. They weren't even worried about the ducks anymore. They were worried about themselves. The next night, Robert couldn't sleep. So instead of tossing and turning, he had gone out to the living room to watch some TV. Around 2 a.m, the family dog started barking outside. On a rural farm, this wasn't all that unusual. It had probably just caught sight of an animal that it wanted to catch. And so Robert turned down the volume on the TV set. As he did so, the barking stopped. Everything felt deathly quiet. And then the dog began whimpering and crying in terror.
No.
Robert immediately shot up from where he was sitting and scrambled to the back of the house, grabbing a flashlight on the way. He threw open the back door, passed the beam over the yard, and he saw his dog right away. It was trying to dig a hiding place underneath his push mower. And so Robert yells out to the dog, but it was no use. The animal was absolutely
Poor
terrified.
buddy.
And this sinking feeling fell over Robert. He couldn't help but remember what happened the night before, and he swiveled the beam of his flashlight over the rest of the yard and then the wooden farm hoist he had constructed. And that was when he saw it. The large, shaggy shape was
Keep
bigger
it.
than they had estimated. The top beams of the hoist were 12 feet tall, and the top of its head was no more than 3 feet lower than that. And it was
Oh,
covered
shit.
head to toe in dark brown or black hair. It had a pair of these red eyes about the size of a baseball. And in the light of his flashlight, he could make out that the face he hadn't been able to see the night before.
Here's the good part.
It looked like a cross between a person and a gorilla with this oversized, flattened nose. Below that, a thick-lipped mouth held a pair of shark-like fangs that protruded from its bottom jaw. Robert said that it was less than 30 feet away, making snorting and growling sounds, and he thought he was going to have a heart attack. And so after
Holy
taking
shit.
in as many details as he could bear, Robert scrambled back inside, yelling for his sons to get out of bed, get dressed, and get down there as quick as they could. And within moments, they were at his side, and Robert had grabbed his shotgun. Since they could hear this at the rear of the house, they snuck out the front door and piled in the pickup truck. Robert brought the vehicle around to the rear of the house, and there in the distance by the tree line, their headlights caught a glimpse of this thing. It skirted along the edge of the forest beside the road, so the family hit the highway, so to speak. But the chase didn't last very long. They made an effort to follow the thing as far as they could, but lost it. Passing the nearest neighbor's house half a mile down the road, they saw a car idling in the driveway. They asked their neighbor if they had seen anything, but if they had, the neighbor denied it. Robert and his sons decided they'd lost sight of the thing for good, so they headed back towards the house. Along the way, they kept their windows down and drove slow. They could still hear something out there among the thick trees, but never saw it again. And that was when the engine stopped running.
But yeah, so
No,
the engine stopped running, and then all of a sudden it came back on. Well, let's see if I can get to.
Did they
July.
see anything? Or that's just all that happened?
Nah, they didn't see anything more after that. They got
By the pond. Everyone rushes to the side of the tractor. They train their flashlights in the direction of the pond and immediately catch one of the creatures by the water's edge. Without saying anything, someone opens fire. The thing tumbles into the murky water belly first, and the whole family just keeps on blasting. And while they're doing it, they notice that the other eyes in the forest have dropped low to the ground as if they're trying to hide. Finally, everyone stops to reload. But as they do, one of those sets of eyes darts out from the forest, scuttles to the edge of the pond, and jumps in the water. They can't see much, but there's a commotion. When they finally train their lights back on the water, it's sloshing violently, but the body of these things is nowhere to be seen. That's when Robert and his boys realize something. They're almost out of ammo. They're far from the house, and whatever these things are, they don't seem bothered by shotguns. Everyone beats it back to the house as fast as their legs will carry them. They cower inside all night, just catching glimpses of things in the distance. Luckily, nothing seems to bother them. Another night has passed with everyone alive.
If they're lucky, it's June in the summertime. No school.
right, right.
It's around this time that Dennis Pilichis enters the picture. He arrives at the farm and immediately starts looking for footprints. And he soon finds them, but as you can see from this picture, they're absolutely bizarre. Round impressions with only 3 toes apiece,
So
spread
these
about
are the
6
things by
feet
the way.
apart.
That makes more
Stranger
sense.
still, the trackways would continue for a time and then
I should have
disappear,
put
only to pick up again a while
time
later.
stuff on here.
Dennis starts asking the family more questions. It seems as if whatever was holding the blue light was different than the other things with the red eyes.
Yeah, we never.
And
we
not
missed
only
part.
that, but in addition to the light it held, these other figures seem to have a soft white glow barely outlining their bodies. Over the coming days, Dennis and his fellow researchers would see this firsthand. This is part of what makes Night Siege so fascinating. It isn't just a story handed down over the years. Dennis and several outside observers were on site for some of it and saw some of this stuff firsthand. That doesn't happen very often in stories like this. Dennis wrote this.
Even though a complete mystery, almost everyone has seen these events, sometimes confirming events as they happen from different locations. This confirms something is being seen that has some sort of dimension to it and not merely some sort of reflection. These strange light sources and mysterious black forms are a common thread among many UFO and creature encounters. One night, 3 members of the research team saw the backwoods light up as bright as day. The glow was a pure and clear white color. The woods grew bright 3 times in a 5-minute period.
There's also a paper trail from law enforcement testifying to the experiences of Robert and his sons. On June 29th, the family brought in police officers in addition to Dennis's team. They filed 2 police reports, which they categorized as suspicious activity.
Okay.
Right.
2 days later, the family had settled into a new nighttime routine. They would climb onto their roof, firearms in hand, and wait for the intruders to arrive. The night of July 1st was no different in that regard, although the phenomenon put in quite a show that night, and it got even weirder.
There it is.
While keeping watch, 2 family members noticed something hovering over the trees. They described 4 objects or lights, all spaced evenly above the treetops. They changed colors from red to blue to yellow, and then, oddly enough, something that seemed more like black. Each one was enormous, about the size of a basketball if you held it at arm's length, although they were shaped more like boxes than spheres. On one occasion, one of these objects shot down a white beam of light somewhere inside the tree line, making the interior of the forest as bright as day.
Like, what is
Everyone
that?
watched, mouths open, as the bizarre sight lit up the entirety of the woods. But any awe they felt was immediately replaced by terror, because somewhere out there in the woods, a sound welled up. But it wasn't a calm, eerie moan or a long, protracted howl. It was manic. It was what sounded like a woman in distress screaming from somewhere deeper in the forest.
Jeez.
And then, without warning, the lights above the trees blinked out. The sudden shift from brightness to
hell's
absolute
that?
darkness left everyone unable to see for a moment or two. And when their eyes recovered, they spotted what seemed to be more of these shadowy figures running just inside the forest, clear enough to see, but well out of the effective range of their shotguns. All the family members could do was watch and stare. It got to be too much, so the watchmen on the roof went back inside and retrieved their rifles. Once back up top, the family started taking pot shots at the intruders, but after a while, they started to get a sinking feeling. None of these shapes had any glowing
This
eyes.
is America.
Those stayed inside the forest. These
Right.
other shadow figures, on the other hand, would dart into the field. Each time a hit was scored on one of these shapes, it would scream, but the red eyes never moved. They seemed to be watching, waiting from just beyond the trees.
Like
Were
they're
the shapes
pawns.
in the field nothing more than a distraction? Is this story weird enough for you? Because it's about to
Yeah.
get weirder. Dennis
Right.
wrote this.
That
While
they're
up on the
waiting for
roof
something.
later, they
Yeah.
noticed
Yep.
2 forms with red
I just
glowing
know we'll form
eyes
out.
come up this side of the field and stand to the side of the barn. They tried to talk to them from up on the roof, waited 5 minutes, and then lowered the boom on them. They screamed, yelled, and ran off. At one point during the night, while taking turns shooting at these forms as they ran around on the woodline, they looked out again and saw their horse standing there out in the field. At this time, their horse was locked up in the barn, did not get out, and was not out in that field.
Pause the
But the
show.
form looked
Pause the show.
Where you going?
Did you just peek at me at all? You peek over here? You like look at me though.
No, stop acting like shit.
Okay. You heard that?
Yeah, stop acting like shit's happening because
Ain't
it's
no
not.
way I saw that.
We got to play the show back and see if we can find it. Remember, it's like right around here,
Okay.
but the form looked like his horse. So when you see that, right before that happens, you might want to see anything. Would it have been in camera view?
No, it would have.
Oh,
That would have been matter.
all right. I'll keep going. So you know where we're at. They see a horse that's in the field, but they know their horse is locked up.
So they see a horse.
And
That's not their horse.
Their horse, right? It looks like their horse, but they know for a fact that the horse is locked up in the barn.
All right.
But they see their horse standing in the field. So I'll keep it pushing here.
Like his horse. They knew something was wrong and that even though it was their horse out there, it was not their horse.
Realizing that this was yet another distraction, the family unloaded on the phantom horse, which was well within range. As with the other shadow figures, the shape screamed, this time running off to the northeast part of the field. A quick inspection of the field shortly thereafter revealed that their hunch had proven correct. There was no blood anywhere to be found, just a few indistinct points in the ground. Their horse was locked up tight. It had been some sort of bizarre decoy perpetrated by whatever had invaded the farm.
Trying to pull them out the
So
house, bro.
Everyone heads back up to the roof.
The
They
roof.
stay there until around 3:30 in the morning, when another light appears above a cornfield across the street. It shot a beam of light that one of the boys said hit him in the head, causing him to lose his balance and almost tumble off the roof.
Damn.
The other responded by opening fire on the light, which instantly extinguished. The boy hit with the light blacked out for a moment, but thankfully regained consciousness, even if he was left with a headache that stretched into the following day. And then, about an hour after this, something like a red-hot coal, but bigger in size, drifted down from the sky and landed among the branches of a nearby tree to the east, directly across the street from the cornfield above which the light had appeared earlier. Now again, the family isn't taking any prisoners at this point. They take a few shots at the light. Ready for more? Here's what Dennis wrote.
It jumped down a
They was
branch
getting
and
at
turned
it.
into
They
a
was getting
small
down.
animal-like creature, something like an owl. They continued to shoot at it. It continued to jump down a branch until it fell out of the tree onto the ground. At this point, the thing got up and ran down the woodline on all fours. The family ran over to the tree, which was almost directly on the woodline, and saw a depression in the soft field grass where it
Hell
looked like
no.
something heavy had fallen out of the tree
Hell
onto the
no.
ground, leaving an obvious impression.
Now, this is just getting weird, right? This
Fuck
is
that.
crazy.
Yeah.
This is all in
Oh.
addition to a cigar box-shaped object that seemed to silently fly by at one point, complete with red and blue
What?
lights. Robert was the one to take aim at it this time, and his shot was followed by the sound of breaking glass. The object then reappeared later over the trees. More shadow figures appeared throughout the night. Hey, I told you there was a lot to cover today.
It's a lot.
We
bro.
ain't over yet.
Yo, keep,
Now,
yeah,
it
let
might
it ride,
be
bro.
easy
I
to
like
think that this is
Okay.
all just a tall tale. But remember, Dennis Pilichis visited the property regularly during this period and even saw some of these things himself. The events were also accompanied by physical evidence, like the footprints. The events of July 1st yielded additional tracks from which casts were made. What's more, eyewitnesses around Rome, Ohio, were having their own sightings during this time period, although none of them were half as dramatic as what Robert and
Even their
his
neighbors.
family experienced. The encounters continued, though, nothing quite like the first night in July. Off and on, family members, including Robert, would see these large, dark shapes outside that would dart away from the house as soon as they were spotted. Robert eventually put up barbed wire around the front yard, hoping that might keep these things at bay. Now, Some of the weirdest evidence that Dennis collected were not just the 3-toed footprints, but regular 5-toed footprints surrounded by something odd.
The strange thing about this find was that the field grass was swirled around the footprint impressions in a clockwise direction.
I don't know what that means.
It was one of the strangest things I had ever seen. We found 5 prints which exhibited these swirl effect around each print. The prints were spaced 6 feet apart. When the tractor path prints veered off into the clearing and field, they left a normal broken path, which did not have the mysterious swirl effect.
What was that?
Dennis Pillages and area researchers had what they described as an intense experience while on Robert's property on July 6th. They said that a glowing form clearly stepped out of the forest on the opposite side of the field. Members of the family opened fire like they always did, dropping the shape into the tall grass. Dennis and the other investigators rushed to where the figure had fallen, but it took a little longer than they would have liked because they had to hop on an electrical fence. And when they reached the area, they saw clear signs that something had indeed been brought down there. There was a large impression in the grass and another path heading away from the site, as if something had dragged itself along the ground, but predictably, no body.
And no blood.
Dennis and another researcher began pelting the forest with rocks, trying to elicit a response. It didn't take long for another rock to come whizzing out of the trees, flying past their heads and landing at the feet of the family 15 feet behind them. Around this time, those familiar glowing red lights started popping up all through the forest to the east of the house, prompting everyone to retreat back
telling
inside.
you, man, I don't know why.
For the rest of the night, they saw figures outlined in a dim glow, as well as those red eyes playing hide and seek off in the distance. Their height off the ground varied from just a few feet to 12 feet in the air. Then, around 3 a.m. on the morning of July 7th, Dennis saw something that truly impressed him. He said this:
The best sighting we all had this night was when 3 sets of big red glowing eyes were observed, one to the left, behind the dead tree, and one lower, almost on the ground. The bigger creature was over 12 feet tall, judging from the dead tree trunk, and stepped out and stood to the left of the tree. My flashlight beam was right on it at this time, and the body of the creature actually casting a shadow on the big dead tree trunk. Black hair could be seen shining in the light of the flashlight from the creature's body. Everyone fired at it. All the critter did was turn sideways with a strange sort of motion and moved out of the flashlight beam. The shooting did not appear to have any sort of effect at all. After the bigger creature moved away, I had the flashlight beam directly on the red glowing-eyed face of the one to the right that was almost on the ground for almost a full minute or two. I will never forget this experience. I actually then saw it sort of crawl away, moving back into the woods.
Dennis noted that no matter how much firepower the family used, the eyes didn't really seem to care. It was only the shadow figures that reacted, and even they seemed to be putting on a theatrical production more than actually getting hurt by anything.
Just kidding. I'm fine.
Things started to taper off a little bit by August. There were still plenty of sightings, but everything seemed to get as normal as it got nowadays. Another chicken died, this time found among a bunch of scattered building materials with a chunk bitten out of its backside. More phantom flashlight beams shot out of the woods, sometimes white, sometimes blue, sometimes accompanied by the same shadowy forms that had become so familiar. Strange smells would drift over the property, sending pets like farm cats into a panic. There's a chilling reference towards the end of Night Siege. Dennis says that Robert admitted that there was some sort of linkage between one of his sons, these beings, and the UFOs. It isn't discussed much more than a passing reference to what seems like poltergeist activity in their home, and a series of finger-like impressions were discovered on a battered fuse box in the basement, like something with tremendous strength had tried to sabotage the family's electricity. Interestingly, a control panel that monitored Robert's gas pipeline was also found smashed in on 3 separate occasions. Other than that, exactly what link existed between Robert's son and the phenomena remains a mystery.
That's it, man. That's that in a nutshell. What do you think?
Crazy.
That's
That could be a movie. That would be a dope ass movie.
That'd be a dope ass movie, bro. That'd be a dope ass movie, man. I'm telling you, man. Life is real life is stranger than fiction.
Hell yeah. That shit was fire. No, that was dope, man. So appreciate y'all, you know what I'm saying, checking out the Men of Letters, or checking out the Night Siege. Until next time, y'all. Don't whistle at night.
Peace.
Peace.